Donald Rodney believes that his brother, Dr. Walter Rodney, and him shared a mutual relationship of love and trust, and that his brother would never have knowingly placed him in danger. He made this statement during his cross-examination by Working People's Alliance attorney Christopher Ram on the final day of Round 8 of the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry.
You had a close relationship with your brother, Dr. Walter Rodney. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever discuss your work with Dr. Rodney? Your professional work you did whilst you were stationed with the Ministry of Public Works?
It never occurred to me.
Was he aware that you worked at the residence of top government officials?
Well, certainly not through me, but I doubt that he was aware.
Did he ever make inquiries from... Sorry, ma'am. Did he, Dr. Rodney, ever make inquiries of you about locations at which you performed professional services?
Oh, no, sir.
Did you ever volunteer such information to Dr. Rodney?
It never occurred to me.
So he did not volunteer?
I'll take you to paragraph 9. And I'll read it into the records. As regards my relationship with Walter, there was brotherly love between us, and I was inspired by his achievements. I adored him. Did you adore him to the extent that you would lie to protect him?
I've never had to lie to protect Walter.
Or to protect his reputation?
Or to protect his reputation. His reputation stood on itself.
In your opinion, Mr. Rodney, was the brotherly love you referred to in paragraph 9 mutual?
Was it mutual?
Mutual.
Could you repeat, please?
In your opinion, was the brotherly love you referred to in paragraph 9 mutual?
Yes, sir. In my opinion.
He trusted you as you trusted him?
In my opinion, yes.
Donald told the inquiry that his brother, Dr. Walter Rodney, was a man of good character and was never an advocate of violence as purported by some persons. The Rodney brother said he was neither informed nor present while his South Rumvelt Park home was searched. According to court documents presented at the commission, the search conducted at Donald's home unearthed subversive material and explosives, suggesting that he was part of a plot to overthrow the Burnham regime by violent means. However, Mr. Rodney rejected these claims as untrue and part of attempts by the then government to victimize him. Donald told attorney Andrew Pilgrim, who represents the wife and children of Walter Rodney, that the killing of Father Dark was a turning point in Guyana's governance structure.
You had described an incident with Father Dark. Do you recall that?
I recall that.
And you had made references to the fact that what you saw of the attack appeared to be occurring in the presence of police officers.
What I saw occurred in the presence of a police officer, definitely.
Would you interpret what took place then as being condoned by those officers? That is the attack.
My observations that the officer turned his face the other way, and my conclusion is that he was condoning it.
At the time, did you have an impression whether the House of Israel was in any way connected to the government of the day?
Yes.
Going too fast.
Sorry, sir. I'll just repeat that for you.
Yes, the action that he saw, the activities in relation to Father Dark, was the actual infliction of the wounds?
No, he saw the pursuit, and then gave in his evidence that he later learned that that Father Dark was pursued and killed by a member of the House of Israel. Just for confirmation, Mr. Rodney, can you confirm that that was your understanding after what you witnessed, that you understood that a member of the House of Israel had in fact killed Father Dark?
At the time, I was not aware of any association by the persons who were pursuing. I subsequently read reports that the individual pleading guilty in the matter was a member of the House of Israel.
And I had asked you earlier whether you were aware of, or did you consider that there was any connection between the House of Israel and the government of the day?
Apart from that incident, generally.
And did you also learn that?
Sorry, what is he saying? That was the impression that generally there was a connection? I don't know what the answer meant.
That was my understanding. You were saying that you understood then, generally, that there was a connection between the House of Israel and the government of the day?
That is correct, because I previously said I had no, from my observation, I could not tell that the persons on the road that day were from the House of Israel.
What time of day was it when Father Dark was being pursued? According to your observation, what time of day was it?
It would be called high daytime.
With what?
High daytime.
High daytime.
Was that noon?
What we in Barbados would call broad daylight in terms of
but
the visibility.
Noon is the high point. What is he saying? Was before, in the morning before noon? Or
in the morning before noon.
Well, could it 10, 11 o'clock?
10, 11 o'clock would be a reasonable estimation. It was after the court hearing, but before noon.
Leaving the time, or the exactness of the time for a moment, would you consider it to have been in broad daylight that this man was pursued and killed?
I think that follows this.
I don't want to make any assumption. You never know. There's weather in Guyana that may be different to that in Barbados. You would consider it was in broad daylight that this priest was stabbed in his back and killed.
He said he didn't see any stabbing.
He might be aware though. You'll get your chance.
So what's the question?
Would you consider it to have been in broad daylight that Father Dark was pursued?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Okay. In terms of the climate of the day, how would you regard the killing of Father Dark in broad daylight?
Oh, it definitely was a turning point in my view. I've already indicated that soon after there was a statement by persons who were not associated with any political group taking a particular stance in relation to the change of the constitution and the governance arrangements in the country. And to my knowledge, that had not happened before.
I want to take you briefly towards the book.
I'm not understanding what he's saying. I think that needs some elaboration. He's saying that Father Dark's death was a turning point in the governance of the country.
It was a turning point in the situation in the country, yes, sir. And my evidence of that is that soon after, a citizens group not associated with any political party issued a statement in regard to a change in the governance arrangement in the country.
Attorney Pilgrim highlighted to the Commission a letter written by concerned citizens who recognized the deep political and economic crisis in the country and as such registered their support for a broad-based governance structure. This evidence concretized the view expressed by Mr. Rodney. Meantime, Attorney Basil Williams, during his cross-examination of Mr. Rodney, suggested that Donald was ill-equipped for the role he was purportedly playing as a protector or bodyguard of Walter Rodney.
I'm saying to you, I'm asking you, do you consider that the mere role of a go-between would have cost Dr. Rodney his life?
I think a go-between could have saved his life.
But you didn't.
As it turned out.
Well, that's the point I'm making. Because if you were trained, your suspicions would have been aroused. Certainly, during the time of those at least 6 visits that you spoke to us about, suspicions ought to have been aroused sufficiently in your mind to gear you towards looking out for your brother.
I won't speculate.
If you were trained, your suspicions would have been
Aroused.
in those 6
Yes.
weeks. Thank you. And what is the answer?
I wouldn't speculate.
You won't speculate. Now, do you consider that in fact Walter really didn't want to get you involved in that kind of role? With that type of role of a go-between in the light of the passport incident?
Well, he did involve me.
No, he told you he didn't use it because he didn't want to get you into trouble.
But what he's saying, what my understanding is that Walter was the one who told him to go and collect, so he did involve it.
As a go-between.
Yes, but you would have done that reluctantly because with the passport issue, he didn't use the passport, and he told him why he didn't use it. That because he didn't want to get him into trouble. A brother's love.
He's suggesting he involved you reluctantly. Do you accept that?
I would not speculate on it as to
Brother's
how
love.
reluctant or otherwise he was.
Did he do anything or say anything to you to indicate that he was reluctant to have you involved?
Not that I could discern,
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Madam.
Okay, let's look at the visits that you told the commission about. I counted from the record at least 6 visits. Around that. Is it true to say that at no time your brother visited the premises or the house of Gregory Smith in relation to any of those visits?
That is true.
In other words, you went on.
Yes. Not on the times that he took you in the vicinity of the premises, he sent you alone to Gregory Smith.
That is true.
And on all occasions that he took you in the vicinity of those premises of Gregory Smith, it was at night.
That is true.
And at all the times that he took you in the vicinity of those premises, he never parked the vehicle in front of those premises.
Well, I parked the vehicle and I decided where to park.
No. The vehicle was never therefore parked in front of Gregory Smith's premises.
Well, I decided that.
No, I'm not asking you who decided it. I'm asking you as a fact. I'm putting it to you as a fact that at any visit that he made with you to those in the vicinity of those premises, the vehicle was not parked in front of Gregory Smith's house.
I never parked the vehicle in front of Gregory Smith's house.
In fact, the vehicle was parked around the corner, away from where Gregory Smith's house was.
I've given evidence on that.
And your suspicions, Mr. Go-Between, weren't aroused? That something was not normal?
Well, the situation was not normal.
So your suspicions were that this was not a normal transaction? Madam
The
Sanders,
conditions in the country were not normal.
am I going too fast?
At times.
Rodney?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes. Now let me see if I could revisit that question. In the light of all that you have answered, I asked you if your suspicions weren't aroused, that something was not normal. You said it was not a normal
You
time.
mean in the transaction with Gregory Smith?
Yes, those 6 visits.
He said conditions in the country were not normal, but
Yeah, that was an answer you gave.
a very specific question is put to you in relation to the transaction between your brother and Gregory Smith. In the light of all that has been put to you, counsel is suggesting that it did occur to you, or should have, that the transaction was not a normal.
Well, I think the situation in the country was not normal, and in that sense, the transaction was not normal.
Williams also suggested that Donald was responsible for the death of Walter Rodney, since he knew that the object he collected from Sergeant Gregory Smith was indeed an explosive device.
Shouldn't you have taken it out and checked?
I had seen the box before.
You never know what was in it. But even as an ordinary human being running an errand, don't you think you had an obligation, before you accept anything to take to your principal, that you should ascertain what it was before you moved off from the giver?
Well, I said I'd seen the box before.
No, but you never said you saw it that night.
In the statement, I didn't say I'd seen it before.
No, you said it now too, that you felt it through the paper bag. And
It's
that's
a
the
simple
difference.
question, you know, Mr. Rodney. Should you have ascertained what was in the paper bag before you took it to your brother? That's what he's asking.
Right, and my answer was that I had seen the box before.
So you didn't consider it necessary that night to double check?
So I didn't consider it necessary.
Well,
to
you
check
cost
again.
him his life. Now, something that seems so simple, it could mean this. Do you consider that for you to have taken the object out of did you consider the time that for you to take the object out of the paper bag was something that would have to have been done, I would say, in a very skillful manner?
I don't know.
Did you consider it at all?
At the time.
Well, I didn't consider it had to be taken out because I believe I'd seen the box before.
Wow.
And I think I'm being asked whether it had to be taken out in a skillful manner. And I'm saying I don't know to that question.
Could I suggest to you that the reason you didn't take it out was because it would have required a delicate touch in doing that?
I'm saying the reason I didn't take it out is because I'd seen the box before.
Donald Rodney rejected this premise, maintaining that he had no prior knowledge that the device was an explosive. Assistant Lead Counsel to the Commission, Latimer Muhammad, summed up the proceedings.
Some of the highlights of his cross-examination are as follows. He was questioned in relation to whether or not he had knowledge that the device that he collected from Gregory Smith was in fact an explosive. He was questioned in relation to why didn't he take this thing out of the bag? Why didn't he check it before he had given it to Walter Rodney. And perhaps he was not trained. And because he did not have the training required, he probably did not act in such a manner so as to check whatever it was he collected before handing it to Walter Rodney. Donald, however, rejected all of this. He insisted that he, as far as he's aware, the object he collected from Gregory Smith, which he had seen before and had held before, felt the same. It looked the same. And that is the reason why he did not take it out of the bag and check it. Because from the appearance, from the weight, from the feel of it, it appeared to have been the same thing he had before. When on previous occasions, he would have tested the device. He also indicated on the cross-examination that when he arrived on the night of the 13th of June 1980, he was not sure whether what he was collecting was in fact a completed device or whether it was still incomplete. But when he heard these tests had to have been done, obviously that meant it was not completed because they were still running tests on the same. He further indicated under cross-examination that he honestly believed that his brother, whom he loved and who he knows loves him, would never have done anything to put him in danger. Because the question arose as to whether or not Walter had knowledge it was an explosive, and he did not know it was an explosive that he went to collect. He told the court that from his story, which he told earlier, and his recollection of the incident where he had given to Walter his passport to use so that he could travel, Walter didn't use his passport. In fact, Walter called him, and Walter Rodney gave Donald Rodney back his passport and told him he didn't want him to get into any problems by using his passport. And that is a way in which he saw his brother protecting him. And he felt that even on the night of the 13th of June 1980, his brother had no knowledge because he felt that his brother would not put him in danger, because at the time the device went off, he was also in the car, and he did in fact receive injuries. He was questioned also in relation to, he ran from the scene and went to the home of Dr. Omowali. Questions arose as to whether or not he would have checked on Walter before. He indicated he rejected any claims that he was fleeing from the scene. What he said was that his first priority was to get help to Walter. And when he left to run to get help for Walter. And we will recall, even Counsel Williams referred to the evidence of Karen D'Souza, because what Karen D'Souza had said, and she testified previous before the commission, is that when she heard the frantic banging on the door and she went downstairs, it was Donald Rodney, and Donald told her something terrible had happened or there had been a terrible accident and that he had to go, that Walter needed help. This is consistent in relation to what this witness has told us and what he has maintained, that when he left the scene, he left not to flee, but he left to get help to Walter, who was injured. He said also today again that it was not until Andae came back to the home, Dr. Omowali's home, and told him that Walter was dead, that he then started to contemplate whether there was some deception that occurred, because even after the explosion, Donald said he did not know it was the device he had collected from Gregory Smith that had caused the explosion. We have to remember that this witness told the commission that the first person having heard that Walter had died, the first person he told that he had collected this device from Gregory Smith was Ms. Jocelyn Dow. Of course, Ms. Jocelyn Dow also testified before the commission previously. We saw Donald Rodney being tested on areas of his evidence in relation to Father Dark's incident, and whether or not during that particular period he was able to identify the people or the persons he saw running behind Father Dark, as House of Israel. He said that on the ground, on the day in question when Father Dark was killed, he did not realize that those persons were House of Israel people. But when the gentleman later pled guilty to the charge, and it came out at that trial that he was indeed from House of Israel, it was then he was able to make the connection. He was then asked whether or not he had ever drawn a connection between the House of Israel and the government of the day. And he indicated that living in those times, there was no other conclusion to draw other than the House of Israel was in fact connected to the government of the day. We also saw a lot of his cross-examination earlier in the day coming from Mr. Peters surrounding the actual conviction that Donald Rodney still has against his name in relation to possession of explosives. And the questions arose as to whether presently now his lawyers would have advised him that he can still seek legal redress in relation to filing a motion to challenge the decision of the magistrate several years ago. What was indicated by Donald Rodney on the stand is that his now counsel has advised him that there are steps that can be taken and those papers might be filed very soon. So he is in fact not happy or pleased that that conviction is against his name, and he spoke a lot about being reluctant to come to the commission because of the fact that he did not want to come to the commission as a convict. You have to understand that this is not an ordinary man on the road. This is a man who was not only related to Walter Rodney by blood, but he was also in the car the night the explosion happened, and he also suffered injuries, and he did in fact list to the commission some of the lingering effects of the injuries he still has. And it is important to understand why it is he was reluctant to come, and understand that he has come, and appreciate the fact that he's willing to tell Guyana what happened to his brother, as traumatic as it might have been to recount what occurred. And we do look forward to him completing his evidence by having the cross-examination and re-examination done. Thank you.